When it comes to modern computer animation studios, few names stand out quite like DreamWorks Animation. There was a time when they were the greatest rival of Disney and Pixar, and even with the occasional dud here and there, they're still capable of turning out some modern gems every now and again. And one of their most beloved franchises would have to be Kung Fu Panda. Yes, a movie where Jack Black voices a panda who does martial arts is actually a banger of a trilogy. Well, it's a trilogy with 2 undisputed bangers and 1 slightly weaker but still good entry. And in preparation for the 4th movie in March, I'll be talking about all 3 Kung Fu Panda movies and why this series is as good as it is. And what better place to start than with the film that started it all. It's the story of Po, a panda raised by a goose named Mr. Ping who owns a local noodle shop and is expecting his son to take over the business. But Po wants there to be more to his life than noodles, and he seeks out his destiny at the fabled Jade Palace, only for his destiny to come right the hell out of nowhere and for him to be declared the new Dragon Warrior. Obviously, this shocks everyone, especially Po. He's clumsy, out of shape, and he has next to no experience in combat, but after feared criminal Tai Lung escapes from prison, Po will have to come to terms with his newfound position and save the valley from this threat. It's a classic Chosen One story where an average character realizes he's supposed to save everyone, and he doubts himself at first before coming full circle in the end, and what makes Kung Fu Panda stand out is the main character himself. Throughout the film, Po struggles with crippling self-doubt, not helped by the fact that the people he once aspired to be like see him as an incompetent buffoon. Even his teacher, Master Shifu, is almost hopeless in his new student, even if he was supposedly chosen for a reason. Speaking of Master Shifu, it turns out he had a history with Tai Lung, who was one of his first students, and when Tai Lung learned that he wouldn't be the Dragon Warrior and went on a rampage, Shifu felt responsible for what had happened. It's a heartbreaking arc showcasing how Tai Lung could have been a great warrior in his own right, but his lust for power drove him down a dark path. There's also the Furious Five, a group of martial arts masters who Po's aspired to be like all his life. They're mostly there to either add levity or tension to the film, but they're decent enough as far as supporting characters go. As for the main character Po, his arc is extremely worthwhile. Each of the films explores a different aspect of him becoming the Dragon Warrior, and this one is about him coming to terms with that title. Jack Black was perfectly cast in this role, and it feels satisfying to watch Po become the hero he was destined to be, realizing that you don't need any special abilities in order to do great things. Another thing I want to give this movie some credit for is the action. This is consistent throughout the entire franchise, but the action and animation are phenomenal. They're impeccably choreographed and tightly paced, the score is fantastic, and the characters make really creative uses of whatever environment they're in. Overall, we're off to a great start with Kung Fu Panda. I suppose the only way left to go is up, right? Well, that was certainly the case with Kung Fu Panda 2. This movie expands upon the story of the first, now having Po on a journey of self-discovery after learning he was adopted. Side note, Mr. Ping is genuinely one of the best animated fathers out there. He's such a wholesome and caring parent who gives a strong contribution to the heart of this franchise. Anyways, there's a new threat that the Furious Five have to take down, Lord Shen. This guy is no joke. Literally, the first scene of the movie depicts him carrying out a full-on genocide against the pandas, which is why Po was separated from his parents as a baby. And he works amazingly as the movie's villain, being extremely powerful, yet also cold and calculating. Definitely one of the best villains to come from DreamWorks Animation, with Gary Oldman giving an excellent performance. And Shen actually plays a major role in Po's arc here, where he has to come to terms with his past trauma and still try to save the people he cares about, even if his adversary is so strong and intelligent. I find it amazing how something like Kung Fu Panda is capable of giving such a rich character arc with Po. It's tragic and emotional, but it also has such an incredible payoff as Po finally comes to terms with who he is beyond being the Dragon Warrior. The movie also retains the stellar animation of its predecessor. The environments are gorgeous and the use of color is on point, in addition to the action scenes being a visual spectacle, especially during the climax. So yeah, Kung Fu Panda 2 is easily the best film in the franchise and one of the best sequels DreamWorks has made. As for Kung Fu Panda 3, however, while I still liked it, it's sadly a bit of a drop-off in quality. This time, Po has to take on his next big challenge, becoming a teacher, and his first day on the job turns out to be a disaster. But later, something shocking happens at Mr. Ping's noodle shop. Po meets his real father, Lee, voiced by Bryan Cranston. Fun fact, Lee's name is spelt the same as the symbol for lithium, the most common metal found in meth. And Bryan Cranston is known for playing a meth dealer in Breaking Bad. Very clever detail, writers. Anyways, Po finally meets Lee, but there's just one problem. There's a new villain threatening the valley in the form of Kai, a soul collector who takes the chi, or spiritual energy, of various warriors in order to make himself more powerful. Turns out, pandas are strong in their chi prowess, so Po has to travel to a secret panda village and learn how to master his own chi while training his people to fight off Kai and his army of jade zombies. As I mentioned earlier, Kung Fu Panda 3 is definitely the weakest one, and it mainly boils down to the writing. It just feels a lot more safe and straightforward compared to how thematically rich the first two movies were. Granted, it's well paced, and I really enjoyed the bond between Po and Lee, but the movie feels really underwhelming compared to what we've gotten before. This also extends to the villain, Kai, albeit to a slightly lesser extent. He's an entertaining character and all that, but he lacks the same depth and intrigue as the previous two villains, which sucks because that scene of him swinging his blades as he arrives at the Jade Palace while Hans Zimmer goes unbelievably hard on the score is just the most badass entry imaginable. But going back to something I mentioned earlier, the story is mainly driven by Po's bond with Lee, and even if it goes through some standard animated cliches like the liar revealed and third act misunderstanding, they still have some really heartwarming moments, such as when they remember Po's late mother or when Po accepts both Lee and Mr. Ping as his fathers. And of course, the animation and action are still fantastic, especially the climax in the spirit realm. Like I said earlier, this is a consistent positive throughout the franchise, so I'm glad that it's no different here. In summary, while Kung Fu Panda 3 is certainly the weakest of the trilogy, it's still got some merit to make the experience worthwhile, and now I'm officially caught up on all the movies. Like I said at the start of the video, I decided to talk about these movies in preparation for Kung Fu Panda 4 in March. This time, it'll have Po try to find a new dragon warrior while having to take down a shape-shifting sorceress known as the Chameleon. I kinda have a feeling Awkwafina's character Zhen is gonna become the new Dragon Warrior in the end, but I'm interested to see how they can move the story forward in this movie. Apparently Kung Fu Panda 4 could also be the start of an entire new trilogy, and in that case, all I can say is please don't let this franchise become another Ice Age or Hotel Transylvania. But for now, thanks for watching this retrospective on the Kung Fu Panda trilogy. If you liked it, then subscribe for more videos like this, and I'll see you all next time.